Welcome to the Interrogation True Crime Stories podcast. All the stories told on this show are either fabricated, alleged, or didn't happen at all and shouldn't be used in the court of law. We hope. All right, everybody. This is pretty exciting news. We've been doing this podcast for a little while. I love that you guys love the show, so please keep listening, like, review, subscribe, do the whole thing. All your support goes a long way. And things have been going well enough that, hey, we have our first official sponsor / partner for the show, and that is Pioneer Clothing. That's Pioneer with a Y. Now, it's a clothing company with a mission to provide high-quality, comfortable, and stylish clothing for casual, everyday wear. And it's based out of the Adirondacks, which is where I'm from originally, in upstate New York, so it's near and dear to my heart. But Pioneer shirts are made with 100% ring-spun cotton, have relaxed fit, and a soft, lived-in feel from the first time you wear them, which is very true. Like, the first time I ever put one of these shirts on, it's like, it's not too light, it's not too heavy, it just feels really comfortable. Pioneer strapback hats are a nod to urban streetwear culture with designs inspired by nature. So they've got dope shirts, they've got dope hats. Pioneer clothing and hats are great for a walk in at the park, hanging by the campfire, or a night out on the town. A perfect summer fit. So right now you can visit their website for pioneerclothing.com. The stuff's out there now. To find out more information and use discount code CRIME25 for 25% off your first purchase. That's a pretty good deal. Some of these places, they're only offering you like 10%, but for our listeners and viewers, it's going to be 25. So that's CRIME25 for your first purchase at pioneerclothing.com. That's Pioneer with a Y, and get the discount code, get you some fresh gear for the summer, and support a cool company. Cool. Welcome to the Interrogation True Crime Stories podcast. I'm your host, Corey David, and today we have a special guest coming to us all the way to Los Angeles, right? Because we met in New York. Oh, you're in New York. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I figured with the writer stuff that you like everything was happening in LA, but I guess they can strike anywhere, really.
It's both. Yeah.
Yeah. But you just moved to New York, right?
Yeah, I moved here in January, but I lived here for a long time before. So
Okay.
it's recently new, but also old for me.
All right, well, we should also say your name, Nicole Conlan, everybody.
Hi, hello, it's me. Hi.
Yeah, I'm stoked that we could finally get you on. I know we only met briefly when you were in New York, but I wanted to hear about, like, you've had such an interesting career. I kind of wanted to start there because I've never seen you do stand. Do you do stand up much anymore?
I do. Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
less than I used to, but I actually have a show tonight after this. So this will be a good reminder of how to talk in front of people. So that'll be good.
Yeah, you can be funny. I'm always an advocate of, like, I have the most fun when I'm funny just before I get on stage.
Yeah, it's sort of like a warm up. When I used to do improv, which I still sort of do sometimes, we would always like warm up first, and you could tell when we didn't.
Yeah. Where's the show tonight?
Tonight I have a show at a bar called Young Ethel's.
Okay. Been there before? Any insight?
It's a really friendly room. It's like a cool space. And also my boyfriend is also on the show, which is really convenient because we could carpool. It's great. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the reason you date a comic, right? It's just you share. You can get booked on. I mean, do you guys get booked coupley? Like, do you get coupled onto shows?
Sometimes he is a more seasoned and kind of better known stand-up comic than I am, so he usually gets booked more often than I do. But we do get booked on a surprising amount of shows together. I think because people are like, we need to book this show. I'll book Jordan, and then they're like, oh, and also Jordan makes me think of Nicole, so I'll also book Nicole. So I think that's what's going on.
Yeah, take the gig. I'm not.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I don't care. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I know there's a lot going on with the writer's strike right now, but tell us a little bit about, like, your work with the Daily Show, because I know that's just from, like, a comedy perspective. That's a job that I think a lot of people, when you start doing comedy, is a huge goal, or at least what you would consider to be like a major accomplishment. So, like, how long have you been working with the show? What does that typically entail for you? Like, what's a week look like?
Well, right now the week we're on strike, so the week looks like nothing.
Correct, yeah.
But I started working there in January, and it's a really interesting time to be at the show because Trevor Noah left last season, and so starting in January they've been doing a new guest host every week, and so I've had to write for, I don't know, like 15, 20 people. And it's been awesome. It's been good for me because I started in January, so I don't know any different. But the other writers say that it's been interesting to have to adopt people's different voices. I think it's awesome. The week looks like typically we in the morning when we get to the office, all the writers will gather together in a room with generally the host of the week is there. Sometimes if they're doing like press or something that they're not there, but it'll be our head writers and the executive producers and the showrunner, and we'll just watch news clips and kind of riff on them and figure out what the funny takes are. And then after that meeting, we'll go back to our offices and we'll pitch different bits and jokes for the show until like 1, 2 p.m. When the scripts are finalized. And then in the afternoon, we'll kind of work on longer form pieces that we could shoot for future shows. And then we all watch the rehearsal together. And then after rehearsal's over, sometimes they'll send jokes back to us and ask us to pitch different punchlines for them.
Is most of the job just being a goofball? Like you're just literally just trying to goof about like dumb things that are happening in the news? Like you just, again, like you're seeing a headline and then you just are sitting with a group of people just trying to think of the dumbest shit to say. Like possible, like smart,
that's
a
dumb, lot of it.
You know what I mean? Like I don't mean to downplay it, but just kind of like you're
it's
just kind
fine.
of no. I just mean in that sense of like you're literally just spitballing with each other about like what the joke is.
It's a lot of spitballing. There are some. So I used to work at the Late Show with Stephen Colbert, and that job was much more about writing like chunks. Like you would write, 5 minutes of monologue at a time, and you would be in charge of writing all of it. At the Daily Show, our job is much more just writing individual jokes. That being said, we also pitch longer pieces, and that can be goofy, but it can also be like more serious, and you can have like a more nuanced take on stuff. So like I just pitched a couple pieces to them about like environmental policy, which is like a little bit drier, but I talked about how like we would do it in a funny way and how a correspondent could cover it. And then we went on strike, so who knows if they like pitches or want to do them or not.
A dry subject matter for a dry planet. I think it's very fitting. Yeah.
Thank you.
Just, they go hand in hand. Now, how did you get into that anyway? Like, were you always more of a writer and less of a stand-up, or was it like, hey, you're doing stand-up pretty much full time or as much as you can, and then an opportunity came along? Like, how does that whole process even work?
So I would say that actually improv was pretty much my bread and butter. And I'm not doing so much of it anymore just because like I'm newly back to New York. A lot of my friends live in LA, and I don't know what's going on after the pandemic and stuff. But for a long time, improv was like my big thing. And I moved to New York originally to go to college. And then after college, I was doing comedy around the city, a little bit of everything. I was on, it's sort of a long, like one thing leads to another thing, but I was on a UCB sketch team as a writer in 2015. And I made really close friends on that sketch team. Two in particular, really, really close friends. We're still on a group chat and we talk every day. One of those women got hired to write at Colbert in like 2016. And then several years later in 2019, they were looking for writers and she recommended me. So I submitted a packet along with like, I mean, even the invite only packets you still get like 700 people. So it's like, it's like a lot of packets.
Sure.
And so I got hired off that packet at Colbert. And then I was there for like about a year and a half. And then I got fired.
Oh, good for you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Big milestone.
Yeah. I think if you want to be picky about it, I got laid off. I didn't like walk up to Stephen Colbert and punch him in the face and they escorted me out of the building. It's just me and a few other writers got let go at the same time. Sure. And then about a year and a half. Oh gosh, I forgot about this. So this is how it happened. And this is not going to be advice that anybody at home can replicate. But so I got off, we were still fully remote at the time. And I got off the Zoom call where I got fired and I was like sobbing. But at the same time, I was in a mentorship group that the WGA put together where it was like a more experienced late night writer was our mentor. And then there were like 5 or 6 people who were like, had less than 2 years in the business and they were mentoring us. Okay. And my mentorship meeting was scheduled literally immediately after the meeting where I got fired. So I closed out of that Zoom sobbing, opened the other Zoom, and then was like, I just got laid off. So I guess my question this week is like, what do I do now? And I'm like ugly crying. And then in that mentorship group was this guy named Jason who worked for the Daily Show. So he's the first of my coworkers to see me cry. Certainly will not be the last.
Yeah, sure.
Um, and so he knew like right away. And so then when they started looking for new writers, they did a round of writers in like packets in summer of that year that he recommended me for. And I submitted a packet, and then they ended up not hiring any writers because I think there was just stuff going on at the show.
Mm-hmm.
And then later, when they were doing a for real writers search, Jason recommended me again, and they remembered my initial packet, and so I sent in more stuff, and then I got hired off of that.
Yeah.
So my advice would be to cry. My networking tip is like just like weep uncontrollably in a professional setting.
Somebody's got to help this chick. Yeah. It's more, it's like, oh my God, I don't want to deal with this on more mentorship calls.
Yeah.
I mean, probably the best place to come from a mentorship standpoint is like, okay, your life just fell apart. Let's figure out if we can put the pieces back together.
Yeah.
Maybe start a meditation practice, maybe start eating healthy. Go for a walk occasionally.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. If ever there's a time that you need a mentor, it's when everything is going bad. When I'm like doing well, I'm like, I don't need any advice.
Yeah. I was going to say things are nothing but roses out here. Nothing but rainbows and sunshine. Now, tell us a little bit about the writer's strike, because I mean, that's one of the particular reasons I was excited about having you on, because I think in our industry, people are aware that it's happening, but I don't think they really understand like why it's happening, or maybe like where the whole because this is, were you a part of, like, there was a writer's strike a few years ago, correct? And
so the last writer's strike was in 2007, and that's the one that lasted like 100 days. There was almost a writer's strike in 2017, and then literally at like 11:59 p.m. on the day our contract expired, they struck a deal. So that time they avoided a strike. So that's probably what you're thinking of. But the last one was in 2007, 2008.
Yeah.
And it was big, and a lot of people probably remember it from like the late night hosts eventually coming back on TV, but having to work without a writing staff. And so to figure out like creative ways to get around the writing rules. And like, there's that very famous clip of Conan spending a show just seeing how long he could spin his wedding ring on his desk. So that's the kind of stuff that was happening last time. So that was the last writer's strike.
So what's the main beef now? Like, obviously, is it a matter of money? Is it a matter of, I'm trying to think of the benefits, like for the guild, like what's if you can, in a nutshell, like what are the main grievances and what's kind of the holdup with the people at large?
Yeah. So, I mean, I could talk about this for 3 hours, so I'm going to try to condense it as much as possible. My thesis statement for what the main issue with the strike is we're trying to make sure that writing is a sustainable career that people can have. Mm-hmm. The studios and the streamers are trying really hard to make writing a gig job, where it's more like being an Uber driver than it is like having a career out of it. Sure. I'm sure there's some career Uber drivers who are very nice and good, but they basically want writers to be able to like be called in for one day, and then that's like your only guarantee. And so there's a lot of like clauses in our basic agreement, our minimum basic agreement. When you hear the term MBA, that's what that is. Okay. That relate to that, and in our pattern of demands that make sure that this continues to be a career that you can have.
Because we like money, and we want to know that we have it coming in consistently.
We like money, and it's also like we like money, and we like to work regularly. Yeah. So like a big problem is like writers' rooms are getting smaller, and the time that you're in the room is shorter, which is bad for a couple reasons. One is you obviously get paid less, but two, the studios are now creating an environment where no lower level writers are like learning the skills that they need to be a higher level writer. And they're doing that in pursuit of like quarter over quarter profits, but it's going to really screw them 5 years down the line when nobody knows how to be a showrunner. Because a showrunner is really like, the showrunner is the person who's in charge with a show. So that's basically the CEO of like a $300 million company. So you should be training people how to do that job. And they just aren't. And then there's some other stuff. There's like concerns about AI taking our jobs, and specifically studios using AI in a way that would allow them to pay us much less. And there's also big issues with residuals, which tie into the fact that streamers just don't reveal how much money they're making, or well, they don't reveal how many views they're getting
Yeah.
specifically. And they're just not willing to give those numbers over. And so basically we came in with all of these requests. We were like, this is what we want. This is how we can make a career sustainable. And they were willing to talk to us about a few things, but for a lot of the really important things, they just came back and said, no, we're not even making you a counteroffer. We're just not talking about it. So that's why we're out walking the picket line.
I mean, this is essentially, this is a lot of industries, right? It's like certain people make a thing cool, and then you need creative people to make something interesting and fun, like a neighborhood like Brooklyn or something. And then all of a sudden, rich people that aren't cool are like, oh, hey, we want a piece of that, or we want to make some money off of that. And they don't understand why it became interesting in the first place, right?
Yeah. And we went to like a big WGA meeting after the negotiations failed. The negotiating committee came back, and on the East Coast, we had a big meeting in a place called Cooper Union. It's a huge like hall that, yeah, it's a big meeting place. And one of the things that really stuck with me is they said that this is the first time that they've been in negotiations and had to deal with people who literally don't know how TV is made. You know, a lot of their questions were like basic process questions about how you make an episode of television. And it's because, you used to be dealing with people who maybe were still like scumbag bad people, but they got into it because they fundamentally like movies and television. And now you're getting into it with a bunch of like Wall Street guys and tech guys. And I'm sure some women also who are bad.
Tech people.
Tech folks.
Which we hate.
Yeah. And they're trying to disrupt an industry that has been wildly profitable since its inception.
Right.
Yeah. And so that's been frustrating. And the one upside of it is like they came to Hollywood and tried to disrupt it, but Hollywood is very much a union town. It is it is as much a union town as like a steel town or a coal town. Like the unions in Hollywood, particularly the writers union, are very strong. And so I think this is the first time that people at like Apple are having to deal with labor advocating for itself.
Like an actual presence that knows what they're talking about, knows their rights, has been doing it for a while. And just like, no. Like, we already have this covered. Like, we know that we're protected for these things.
And I think that's why, like, part of why writers are taking this really seriously, I think, is because we want a future for ourselves. But I think we also understand that, like, winning a victory now can maybe help other people understand what they can accomplish, either by unionizing or just forming an informal alliance that can stand up to management and like kind of get themselves better working conditions. And because we're such a strong union, that is something that we are uniquely in a position to do.
Yeah, you don't have to take the shit. You just stand up, you should stand up for yourselves, especially when it's blatantly obvious that people are just trying to take advantage of the system or the people that are involved in it, right? That's the thing I hate. One of my biggest pet peeves personally is when people treat me like to be talked to like I'm stupid. Or be talked to down to in a way like I don't get it or something. I'm like, no. Like I clearly see what's happening here. You can't tell me you're not like screwing me over while you're actively screwing me over. It's a little too transparent.
So we have a few demands about AI, and the studio came back to us and they were like, okay, we're not willing to even like consider any of your demands about AI, but how about this? We'll have a meeting with you once a year to discuss technology. And we were like, fuck off. Like, that's not anything.
What if the compromise is just one robot in the room? You just have to have a minimum requirement of one robot in the writer's room. Doesn't have to be more, doesn't have to be less. Yeah, it's just accounted for.
As long as there are still writers there getting paid, I'll take a rope. Like, that's fine. Put a pen on a Roomba and we'll have him write something.
Just see how long it would take, like, that theory about, like, if you gave a room full of monkeys a bunch of typewriters.
An infinite time.
If you gave a Roomba an infinite amount of time and a paper that just lines the walls, like, would they eventually be able to write a script?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Probably something. I think it's just a matter of having the just being accounted for. Everybody's represented. Right. And before we move on, is there anything that the general public can do? Like, is there anything that people listening that are upset about it or think it's bullshit? Is there something they can do to help the cause in any which way?
So a big one, if if you're not in a city where pickets are happening or anything, and this is something that even if you're listening to this and you're like, you writers are so high and mighty and I hate you, there's something.
It's because we are. Yeah. I mean, we deserve to be. Do you not enjoy the movies that we're watching?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even if you hate me and you hate us, one thing that you can do is there's a donation fund called the Entertainment Community Fund. It used to be called the Actors Fund, but now it's the Entertainment Community Fund. And any money that goes to that helps pay people who are also losing their jobs or out of work because the writers are striking. So we're on strike, but that means like everybody else at the Daily Show is getting paid for a while, but eventually because they're not making TV, they are going to be out of work for however long that is. You know, all our camera people, all of our makeup and wardrobe people, all of our PAs, a lot of the people who work in our office. And so the Entertainment Community Fund will help float those people while we're on strike. So that is one thing that you can definitely do. And if you happen to be in a city where pickets are happening, everybody's welcome. You don't have to be a WGA member to stand on the picket line with us. So if you live in New York or Los Angeles, there's a lot of places. If you live in Boston, there's a big one coming up because the president or the CEO of HBO, David Zaslav, is giving the commencement speech at Boston University. So I think there's going to be picketers there. I know there's some in Philly. There's some in upstate New York. My guess is there's going to be some picket lines at shoots in Atlanta and probably somewhere in New Mexico. So just like there's a few Twitter accounts, if you just look for like WGA stuff on Twitter or Instagram, a lot of people will post picket locations. And if you want to come, you can come. And if you're an aspiring writer, it's like, don't go there like trying to hand out business cards, but it's a really it's very tacky, but it's a really good way to meet writers. Cause I was at a picket line in Greenpoint in Brooklyn recently. I pointed over here as though, first of all, that is not the direction that Greenpoint is relative to me, but also
we wouldn't have known.
Help anybody at home.
We wouldn't have known.
Why am I pointing here? But I was at a picket in Greenpoint for the show Evil. And so the Teamsters and IATSE, who are like the crew members union, are being really good about not crossing our picket lines because they kind of have their own beefs with the AMPTP who we're negotiating against. So they were like, if there's two people here, that is a picket line and we will not cross it. So it was me, another Daily Show writer, and a Kimmel writer of like 20 years. And then this one pre-WGA writer who has not broken it. He just submitted his first writing packet and wants to be in late night comedy. And we were there for like 6 hours. I left early and then those other guys stayed until like 1 a.m. And that guy who is trying to break into the industry had 6 to 8 hours of unlimited contact with 3 tenured late night writers. So if you're like, I know some people feel weird about going to the pickets because they're like, I'm not a writer and that feels weird. Like, don't feel weird about, like, we want you there. It is helpful to have you there. And if you're like a nice person, you can talk to people and you know, you're not going to get a job on the picket lines, but you'll meet a lot of people and it will only be good for you.
Yeah, at least it's a way to start a relationship.
100%.
Yeah, for sure. So even if you're a Roomba, get down to the picket line.
Bring your Roombas. Put a little sign on the Roomba and we'll be good to go.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you for sharing all that information.
Yeah.
I know I was really curious, and I know a lot of our listeners would be too. So with that being said, let's get into some dumb crimes that I found on the internet this week. And if you're ready to go, I'll read the headline for you, and we'll get it going. So Americans caught smuggling 375 pounds of fruit roll-ups into Israel. Any first thoughts?
Why are fruit roll-ups illegal in Israel? Oh, is it because are they non-kosher?
It's got to be. Yeah, it's got to be because there's a kosher problem. I was gonna say halal, but I know that's not the right one.
What's the? It's because I work in late night. I have to think in this joke format. But I think the late night joke is, they smuggled in however many pounds of fruit roll-ups. What's weird is they smuggled them. They hid them inside of bricks of cocaine.
Yeah, right. I was gonna say they just like that was like the real in. They're like, okay, sorry guys, you got the coke, but we just got so many. Did they have? What I'm curious about, are fruit roll-ups like banned in the country? Like they just thought this was gonna be the haul of the century. They're just like giving them out to people on the street.
Especially because it's not like bringing fruit across where it's like there's like pesticide issues. It's like these are prepackaged candy things.
Yeah. So apparently there's like a lot of videos like this going on right now, like on TikTok, where there's like candy and ice cream being smuggled into different countries. And the Israeli Ministry of Health wrote that it's on its Facebook page that it's been having to deal with hundreds and hundreds of pounds of candy being smuggled into the country. Now, I don't see the problem with it, really. I mean, if we're going to be smuggling anything, I think bringing a little bit of joy. I don't know when the last time you had a fruit roll-up was, but I think that's going to make me feel better about, any kind of national turmoil that's going on.
100%. Honestly, it's nice to just have like a nice little story about a candy heist.
Yeah,
I
of
feel
all
like
the things
every
that are going
story
on.
is such a bummer. And then it's like, oh, somebody tried to, there's a little fruit roll up bandit out there who's
Yeah.
trying to get away with things.
I mean, but if you were gonna, this also just could be somebody that's like super hungry, right? And
Yeah,
it was a
true.
long flight from the States over to Israel, and they were like, I just wanted to make sure that all my needs were taken care of. I have a sweet tooth, and I get pretty hungry when I'm flying.
We used to have snack time in elementary school, and I remember bringing fruit roll-ups a lot for snack time. And in retrospect, like it would have been insane for my mom to just give me like a lollipop or like a bag of Skittles, but for some reason fruit roll-up was like, but that's the candy that's healthy for lunch.
Uh
So
huh.
we got to eat that somehow.
Well, it's like sun chips. You know, sun chips are healthy for you.
Yeah.
Fruit roll-ups, there's fruit in it. Duh.
Yeah, it says
Right?
fruit right in the name.
Yeah. I mean, I can't be fooled. You know, I'm
No.
a pretty smart guy. Sun chips are healthy for you. Fruit roll-ups are good for you.
Yeah,
This
this all
is
tracks.
this is like an extra amount of like when you snuck candy into into a movie. You know, and you
Yeah.
just shove everything into your pockets. My mom would even like pop popcorn at home and like stuff it under her shirt.
Hilarious.
She was a smuggler. Like anytime we were going to see a movie, even if it was the discount movies, the movie theater where they had like stuff from last year and a movie's like $4, she's like, you know, they tried to really bend you over with the snacks in these places.
I brought a Chipotle burrito with me into a movie one time, and the woman working the like ticket tearing position like really, really tried to go after me. And I was like, okay, fine.
Mm-hmm.
I was like 19 at the time or something. And so then I just went outside and put the burrito in my backpack and then walked right back inside.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, what happened to the burrito? And I was like, I ate it. And she was like, no, you didn't. She was like, no, you didn't. Open your backpack. And I was like, I'm not going to do that. And she was like, you have to open your backpack or I'm not going to let you in. And I was like, you're not the cops. You're,
Yeah.
and eventually her manager had to come and be like, relax.
Yeah.
You can't do anything about this. It doesn't affect you. And then I ate my burrito at whatever stupid movie I was there to see.
Yeah, I mean, they have bigger
that,
problems. Yeah.
lady.
There's young teens hooking up in the front row, and you're
Yeah.
worried about me eating a
Man,
goddamn burrito?
there's this, I don't know if they have them in Denver, but there's this chain of movie theaters called iPix that have chaise lounges now that you can share with it. They're like 2-person basically like beds that you can sit at and watch a movie, and it's like it's like they're just made for hand jobs, right?
Oh,
Like
man. Yeah.
that's
Perfect.
all that is. Like I would never sit there because it's, I mean, those things better be covered in vinyl that you can like bleach because they're gonna get covered in fluids.
Yeah, like after every movie, they just like bring
Yeah,
out like a
it's
hose
so-
like they have at a cattle ranch.
Yeah.
So good.
Ugh.
So apparently there's this craze that's been going on TikTok where people are taking fruit roll-ups and putting them inside, so ice cream inside of a fruit roll-up and making like a dumpling shape. And it's like the cold ice cream kind of hardens, and then the fruit roll-up is just snapped around it, and it makes for a fun treat. So I just don't think they had fruit roll-ups available in Israel. So they've just been like, so a certain number of people, some financiers, if you will, big China, has been funneling fruit roll-ups into different countries so people can make TikTok videos.
I'm still unclear on why fruit roll-ups are not allowed in other countries.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's probably got something to do with, it's got to have something to do with Satan, maybe homosexuals. It is a rainbow colored treat.
Okay.
I mean, there's a rage against the, drag and LGBTQ right now. So I just think
How
maybe
many
it's just
pounds
like,
did you say it was?
let's see, this particular bust was 375 pounds, but in 1 week, there's been 660 pounds confiscated.
How are they are they just like checking 4 suitcases that are just full of fruit roll-ups? Wild.
Yeah, that's the only thing.
Wild.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if I was going to be smuggling a treat, I'm like a fan. I'm a sucker for like cookies. So Oreos and Chips Ahoy, the soft kind, would probably be my go-to. But apparently that's not as trending on TikTok. So
yeah, well, get some sort of trend going, and then you can get a black market situation.
Yeah, I'd like to think so.
Off the ground. Yeah.
All right, next one. A man has been arrested after applying to be an assassin on rentahitman.com and was arrested by the FBI.
That's entrapment. Yeah. That's straight up entrapment.
I mean, the guy was just looking for
work.
He
wasn't already a hitman, obviously. He didn't kill anybody. This is pre-crime. I'm on this man's side. I'll be his lawyer.
He was just trying to get into the
Yeah.
trades. Isn't that what anybody wants? Work with your hands, you know?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, he was a gardener, and he's just like, the season's dried up, and I got to find something to do in the off season. It's wintertime. Yeah. There's not a lot for a gardener to do, so I can use these specific tools that are great for killing, and I can just have my own little business.
I mean, who runs, what is it, rentahitman.com?
I mean, it sounds like the FBI runs it. If I'm...
I mean, I understand you have to be pretty stupid to do that, but also I don't know. I think the FBI is at fault here. They're the ones who wanted to hire a hitman. That's suspicious to me.
It's a fake website whose owner relays tips about possible murders for hire to law enforcement. What a narc. It's not.
That man should be taken out by a hitman. We need to get some sort of budget John Wick on taking that guy out, because that dude is a narc.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, is this really what you're going to be doing all day? Just people that are just looking for money? Yeah. Honestly, like I said, they're just looking for a little extra cash. Maybe they're down on their luck. This economy's tough,
Yeah.
And if you have a unique set of skills, why not put them to use like Liam Neeson does?
Yeah. Also, how do we know that the hitman wasn't applying to only kill bad people? Checkmate, right. Rentahitman.com.
Yeah, absolutely. He just enters his name Dexter. This is Dexter Morgan.
Yeah.
Oh man. So he was asked to provide a resume and photos of himself with a driver's license. What's on the resume? That's so in his resume, Garcia indicated he'd served in the Air National Guard. Okay. And that he'd been awarded the highest designation of marksman expert. So these guys.
Wow. So this guy also hates the troops.
Yeah, he's just anti-vet.
All right. Well, it sounds pretty fucked up to me.
Yeah, it's a pretty messed up situation, but you're like, yeah, this guy is good at a certain thing. Like, let him do it, especially if it's going after. This guy's not utilizing this tool the right way. Whoever owns the website.
Also, let's be real. We all have jobs that we've sat at and done nothing. Like mm-hmm. I was an associate producer at Sports Illustrated by name, but every day I was in there on Facebook. So until that hitman does a hit, he's just a man. So
yeah, he's just waiting.
You can't arrest someone for their job title.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, of course. And I think it could be useful to have these people at your disposal. Just have them on retainer, just in case something happens. You never know when you're going to need somebody with this particular set of skills.
If anything, the FBI should be like, thank you. We often have to take people out. Yeah. And now you are funneling skilled marksmen to us.
Yeah. Let's get this guy an interview, huh? Let's see what he's got.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, you never really know when a potential hitman strike is going to start, right? Yeah. So this guy could be the person that you need when all the good hitmen aren't available anymore.
Exactly.
So picket line is just people that are just like, yeah, I killed a couple of people, but it was all for good money, and I needed a retirement fund.
They're also unionizing.
Probably the easiest way to bust them. Right. All right, well, that's going to do it for our dumb crimes for the week. So I'm interested to hear what you have to say for your story. I always tell people it could be a crime you committed, witnessed, or just something where the police were involved, no matter how mundane or how extreme. So what do you got for us this week?
It's pretty boring, but so I used to live in Los Angeles, and I was there when the bird scooters and Lime scooters first came out.
Oh, what a disaster.
I understand why people hate them. I am in the minority of people who love them. I think they're great. I think they solve a lot of transit problems in cities. Mm-hmm. I think they're fun. I use them all the time. I really embrace the scooters. I get why people don't like them. I don't want to argue about
I think from a personal standpoint, yes, everybody loves them. But I think at large, you're just like, Jesus Christ, people are dropping like flies.
Yes, they are everywhere. But so this was in the early days of the salad days of scooters. Mm-hmm. And I was driving one, and I was also I had lived in New York for a long time. And if you ride a bike or something through a red light in New York, you get a ticket, but you don't get tickets for jaywalking and stuff. But in LA, you do. They're really serious about it. If you ever go to LA, don't jaywalk, particularly in major roads, because they love to give tickets for that.
That's got to be the only place in the country. That literally has to be the only place where they're still this rule is hard fast. We're never going to give up on it, and it's a very serious crime.
it sucks. I could on another podcast I'll talk to you about it for 2 hours.
About jaywalking.
Yes. But I was on a Lime scooter for like the first or second time, and I was like a little bit lost. And I was like, oh, I think I go this way, and there were no cars in the intersection, so I just went through it. I wasn't even really paying attention, and the light was red. The cop like whoop whoop and like started to follow me, and I didn't even register that it was for me, because I was like, I'm on a scooter, like like, oh, we're gonna do a high-speed chase on a scooter. So I genuinely thought that there was like they were responding to a call for something else. And so then I like turned down a street, and eventually I realized they were following me. But by the time I realized they were following me, I had already like outrun them on the 15-mile-an-hour scooter, because they're so nimble and small that I like turned up like an alleyway just because I was like lost and disoriented, not because I was even trying to evade them. And then because
so they think they're on like a real getaway. They're like,
and I'm just lost.
They're calling in backup.
Fully lost, trying to figure out how to get like where I'm going. And then by the time I realized it, I was so far away from them that I was like, oh, they're absolutely not going to find me.
Did they give up on the chase?
Yeah, they gave up eventually. And I don't totally remember. This was long enough to know that I don't remember for sure. But I do think when I figured it out, I like parked the Lime scooter and then just started walking, just so I could. And I think I may have taken off my jacket just so I'd have plausible deniability of like, I wasn't on a scooter. I don't know like what you're talking about.
So you've never committed a crime otherwise, but you know exactly how to evade a police officer. And then once you realize that you're in trouble, you're like, like, all right, I got to ditch this outfit. I got to ditch the vehicle.
I mean, I don't think I like really tried to disguise myself. I think I just tried to like make myself different enough that it wouldn't be worth their effort.
Yeah, they're like, I don't know if we can ID this lady.
Yeah.
What are they gonna do? Search your scooter if they pull you over?
Well, no, because the benefit of the Lime scooters is you can leave those fuckers anywhere. So it's not like there was any proof that it was mine. I could be like, no, I'm just casually walking past this one that's right here. So that's like that's the time I got away.
It'd be fun if you like mimed like rolling down the window. Like, oh, sorry, officer. Can I check my glove compartment? Sorry, hands up.
Yeah.
So balance is kind of tough. May I put my kickstand down?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it was literally just like, I think I may have gone like maybe the wrong way down a one-way street, and I mean, that's never stopped them before, but sure. but I think maybe that was it. But yeah, it was just through sheer dumb luck and me not even registering that I was breaking any laws or that the cops would care, that I just happened to manage to evade what I'm sure would have been like a $300 ticket or something.
Yeah, I mean, good on you. Also, it would have been kind of funny if you were just like, oh, that's weird. Why is there a helicopter over here all of a sudden?
Yeah, that would be bad.
No, you've never been in another high-speed chase, or did you ever steal a car or anything? You ever have to like? You ever have enough?
No.
You ever have to like? Is there another time that you've had to run away from the police at like a party or anything like that?
I'm sort of a goody two shoes, and my mom was definitely not letting me out of the house to go to parties until I was like old enough to know better than to like go to a party where the police were coming. Yeah. But we definitely during one of the many series of protests against the police there have been in this country, I somehow got separated from my group of like well-meaning liberals and got with like a more truly fuck the police group. And I was like, oh, okay, this is like, I feel like we're really doing something. And we we stopped traffic on the West Side Highway. And it was like a bunch of us, not at all organized, but like very passionate. And we just ran out onto the highway and stopped traffic.
Very angry.
Yes. And they were definitely starting to round people up. And that was one where my survival instincts kicked in. And I was like, oh, I can see them starting to kettle people. I'm going to get out of here before that happens. Which is, maybe doesn't say a lot about me as a social justice activist, but does say a lot for me in terms of, not having to call into work the next day because I am in jail.
Yeah. Jumped on a Lime scooter. Get the fuck out of there.
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny. That escalated very quickly. You're like, hey, I just want to save the whales and stuff. And you're like, no, fuck the cops. And you're like, okay, I'm in it now.
Yeah,
this feels fun. Yeah. I feel like this is all just got really
cool, dude. I'm here. Let's do it.
This just got exciting. Huh? We got to burn something? That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining the show. I really appreciate your time and your insight and some fun stories to tell. Let everybody know where they can find you with the website, social media, and maybe some of the stuff you've got coming up that people should look out for.
Yeah. So I'm on Twitter at Nicole Conlan, and I'm on Instagram and TikTok at the Nicole Conlan, because there's a 14-year-old girl in Australia who is sitting on at Nicole Conlan and she's not using it.
Oh, do they have more followers? Because that would be more infuriating.
No, not at all. And I guess she's probably not 14 anymore, because this has been for a few years now. But I don't know. Sometimes I get emails sent to me that people have meant to send to her. It's a whole thing. But if the Daily Show ever comes back on television, you can check out the Daily Show. I also am starting a new podcast with Raleigh Williams, who hosts a YouTube show called Climate Town. And we're doing a podcast called The Climate Deniers Playbook. And that's going to come out in June sometime. So if you follow me on whatever, trust me, I'll be posting nonstop about it. So if you want to find out about that, then follow me on social media and you'll hear about it.
Tight. Looking forward to seeing it. So thanks for joining the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no doubt. For everybody that's listening, if you haven't already, like, review, subscribe, do all that kind of stuff on YouTube and whatever platform you listen to. We do have a couple live shows coming up, including one in Denver in the month of May, and then I'm going to be doing a couple in Oregon when I'm out there in June. We got the show into a few different comedy festivals this year, so I'll be at the Winter Park Comedy Festival the first weekend in June, and then the Omaha Comedy Festival doing the live version of the show in August. So check my website for that. It's CoreyDavid.com, and thanks for listening. Have a good one.
Bye.